they're going to have an interesting trade deadline season. I think most people are expecting them to sell, but one NHL insider says maybe they'll buy. Trade season's heating up. Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet says Buffalo could be a good trade partner for the Pittsburgh Penguins. On his 32 Thoughts blog last week said, quote, with all of the noise around the Penguins, I believe they have interest in some of Buffalo's younger NHL-ready prospects. It fits what they want. If you go over to Frank Saravalli's trade board of Daily Faceoff, there are 3 Buffalo Sabres currently on his trade board that also fit what the Pittsburgh Penguins have sort of been looking for here since they started this new plan in March. Number 7 on the big board, Dylan Cousins, center. Number 9 on the big board, Bowen Byram, left-handed defenseman that already has a Stanley Cup to his name. And number 14 on the big board, Jack Quinn, a right winger that is still trying to kind of find his footing at the NHL level. So with that in mind, Horwat, of those 3, which one would you be most interested in seeing the Penguins go after?
Of those 3, I'm going to go with Bowen Byram. I think the left side of the defense is where not where the most help is needed, but where things are a bit rocky because Marcus Pettersson's probably out at some point this year. They're going to try and do something with Ryan Graves probably. Matt Grzelcyk might be gone. I mean, those are 3 you're starting left side defensemen right there. That's a whole left side. You're going to need a new face in there that can be a bit more of a long-term fixture. And I know he's in the final year of an RFA deal and will need probably a raise from his 3.85. But generally, I'd say of those 3 names, that's the one you go for because Cousins is locked in for another quite a few years.
5 years after this one.
Yeah, at $7.1 million. Again, he's 23, so it's not like it's a bad contract or a bad deal. He might live up to it. And might even live up to it in Buffalo. Who knows how that goes. But I think it being such a long contract is what makes it not fit the quote-unquote Penguins agenda for what Kyle is looking for. And as for Jack Quinn, also in the final year of, I believe, his rookie deal, coming up RFA, 23 years old, under $1 million right now, but kind of still looking for his footing. And the Penguins are plentiful when it comes to forwards who are budding NHLers, could play in the NHL one day. So maybe you don't need to fill that role necessarily with a Jack Quinn type, although it is exactly what Kyle Dubas is looking for. Who knows? But I would say for now, at least, Bowen Byram, I think, intrigues me the most. It's weird that he's bounced around. He's a really good player. But we'll see. I'd say of those 3, that's one I would have the most interest in. And I'll throw Peyton Krebs in there just because depth centers are always nice, especially at his age.
Yeah, how many former Vegas Golden Knights picks are the Penguins going to acquire this year? You got Cody Glass, now you're throwing in Peyton Krebs. Who knows? Maybe they'll swing something for trying to think of another Vegas draft pick, and I'm coming up blank. Maybe a Zach Whitecloud, but he's still in Vegas. No, when I look at this list and these 3 specifically taking out Peyton Krebs, Jack Quinn is the one that makes the most sense, right? Mm-hmm. He kind of fits the mold of a Cody Glass, Phil Tomasino, a guy who's 23 years old, who doesn't cost a lot, who's not going to cost a lot whenever he signs as an RFA this summer, and you can give him a fresh start. But again, if it's who I'm most interested in, I agree with you. It's Bowen Byram. The fact that he's only 23 years old, he's been in the league for a long time, and the fact is the only reason he's on this list is because he's a left shot. It was curious why Buffalo went out and acquired him in the first place, because he's a left-handed defenseman, and they've drafted 2 left-handed defensemen first overall in recent memory with Rasmus Dahlin and with Owen Power. So you're already paying those guys. They're your first-round picks. They're not going to be the odd man out. It's just going to end up being Bowen Byram, who they acquired for Casey Middlestat at last year's deadline. And you look at Byram, the kid's a phenomenal skater. Maybe, just maybe, he's a young Marcus Pettersson replacement. Maybe not as good, maybe not as refined right now. But again, he's 23 years old. And as we've always said, defensemen more often than not take longer to develop. Byram's been developing in the NHL, and he's had some very, very good stretches. There has been a bit of an injury history, but if you look at the last 2 seasons, he's remained relatively healthy. So that doesn't really concern me. I think if you pair him with Owen Pickering, you have a very good young left side that you can look towards the future with Byram being 23 and Pickering being 20. And then you still have Emil Pianiniemi, who's maturing and moving forward. And then you can still backload the prospect pool. That's what it does. It gives you time to backload the prospect pool with left shot defensemen, even though you also really need right shot defensemen, because outside of Harrison Brunek, you really, and I guess you could throw Jack St. Ivany in there. You really don't have very much.
No, you don't. But it is important to kind of fill that prospect cupboard as well as you can. And who knows? I think the Sabres went out and got Byram because they really thought this season, at least, maybe not last year when they got him, but this 24-25 season was supposed to be way different for them. Mm-hmm. And they looked like they had the lineup that could do it. They looked like they built something pretty strong there. And just Buffalo happened again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they thought they were loading up with Bowen Byram, and really that is a way to load up. If you look at that left side of Dahlin, Power, and Byram, likely one of those guys is playing the right side, because how are any of those three going to go on the third pairing? They're just not. But it's, obviously things have not worked out in Buffalo, so we're having these discussions of, well, who's going? Which of these very good young players is going? And I wouldn't be shocked to see Byram somewhere else. I wouldn't be shocked to see Cousins somewhere else. He's been on the trade block for so long. Mm-hmm. And Jack Quinn, you're right, does fit the mold of what the Penguins have been doing perfectly. But the most interesting one is Bowen Byram.
Yeah, now I do want to talk about Dylan Cousins here for a minute. Like you mentioned, 5 years remaining with $7.1 million per season on his deal. That's a lot to eat if you're the Pittsburgh Penguins. But again, he's 23 years old. The one thing about Dylan Cousins is he came into the league. He had a really good year in 2022-23 where he scored 68 points. He scored 31 goals, and everybody said, all right, he's arrived. He is a piece in Buffalo, a bona fide piece. He's been slowly declining since. I mean, last year, his numbers went down. This year, he's on pace for his numbers to once again drop point total-wise between the last two. So, again, I don't know if part of that is playing in Buffalo, but I think gone are the days of saying, well, if he comes to Pittsburgh, it's a better environment. It really isn't. I mean, Buffalo is in dead last in the East. The Penguins are a notch above them. Yeah, they have about 7 points of a buffer zone, but they're heading in the opposite direction. Buffalo is a young team trying to find their footing. Pittsburgh's an old team trying to hold on to the ledge. Like, does bringing him here substantially change anything for Dylan Cousins? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but I think gone are the days of saying, like, with confidence, hey, if you bring him to Pittsburgh and you put him next to Crosby and you put him next to Malkin, he's going to figure it out. Have we seen kind of bumps in play from Cody Glass and Phil Tomasino? Yes. But have we seen them bump and play to the level where, all of a sudden, these guys are bona fide top six guys because they had that capability, they had that pedigree, and they've unlocked it in Pittsburgh? No. They played good hockey. Cody Glass still has 3 goals. Phil Tomasino is playing well on the third line, but he is a third liner. It's not like they're reaching their fullest potential in Pittsburgh anymore.